My name is Ron Chompf. Thank you for coming. This is the ACS Multi-Bin Warehouse Management for Distribution and Manufacturing class. We're going to cover everything that's in our base package for distributors and manufacturing. We're going to go ahead and get started here. I have a brief overview here on the screen right now of what we're going to talk about. So today's objective is really to provide a good basic platform or understanding of the multi-bin warehouse management and then cover our features for directed picking and directed put away. That said, there's a lot of features to that. So the approach today will be twofold. One is to cover the basics and what sometimes I phrase as the phase one, and then we'll talk about the phase two, and you can see some of that right here as I list it out here. We'll talk about the lay of the land. I typically refer to as where we are. So if you're experienced with Sage 100 already, I figure looking at the differences of where we are should really just put it all together for you. Cover our options, talk about the inventory and transferring inventory. We're going to get into directed picking and directed put away in our options on how that works. We're going to work on the pick sheets today. We're going to talk about utilizing the two main pick sheet templates that we provide. One, printing the available inventory, and two, using the wave picking for directed picking. And then we have some new options that I want to talk about for those that are existing users and experienced and might be interested in seeing some of the new options related to automatic allocations and some wave pick options also. So you're sort of scanning down here. So a couple new options on regions, which, as you know, is our term for zones in your warehouse, and other purposes. We'll hopefully have enough time to talk a little bit about the new dashboard in order to do replenishment and transfer inventory. We have a lot going with that, and there's some new options coming on that in the next couple of weeks, and so hopefully we'll have enough time to talk about that. That along and talk a little bit about some of our UDF options. Sometimes we don't get enough time to talk about that. So that said, let me go ahead and bring this up over here. There's just 2 pages to my overview today. So I'm going to bring up the screen in 1 second. Just thought I'd give a little overview on some specific things that we're going to talk about right now. And that's location types and the utilization of our location types in order to improve and refine the way the system handles picking of your inventory and put away of goods. There's a few options on that we want to talk about, and utilization of some lesser-known bin location types that we have. We have customer and sales order bin location overrides, and for manufacturing, there's some overrides that we sometimes don't talk about. And then utilization of the regions and pick sheets here. So I'll bring this back up here in a little bit, but these are our 5 main location types. So if I were to pull up my inventory screen here, and I've got my infamous HAN 252 on the screen, and you can see that we have our inventory in different bin locations here, and then our location types are right in the middle, and it's referring to the primary bin locations, regular pick locations, overflow, staging, and then we'll cover also the purposes for floor and other. The region code is shown here on the screen too. Regions to us are the zone in your warehouse or the grouping of your inventory. So 2 purposes that we do with this region code. And you can see that I have a lot of my inventory here in these in a pick zone or region code, and you can see the locations that are a part of that zone. And then coming down here, you can see that I have some other region codes. And then you'll see later that we can use these region codes to help us refine the directed picking, directed put away. In red, here it's showing me some pick restrictions that I have on my inventory. I have some inventory that's restricted for customers, and you can tell it says disabled for everyone except for this customer number, 02 Capri, and down here is 01 Avnet. And this is inventory that's specific for these customers, and we'll talk about that. Disabled for sales orders, great for quality control. and return of goods. When you disable for sales order like this diff SO, that makes it so that no one in the sales order module can grab that inventory, either selecting it in the in manual distribution or automatically in the system. Now, what we'll also talk about today is role maintenance and your ability to give users security rights to view inventory that is restricted and to select inventory that is restricted. The receive date, it's nice to look at this here right now. The receive date is the date that the inventory went into the location. We use that in order to help age your inventory. So as you know, allotted valued goods like this 2480 in Sage 100, if you were to use the system's ability to auto-allocate either by the lot number or the lot receipt date, you'll have that ability to get the oldest goods first, FIFO. For non-lot serial goods, go back to this item over here, we can use the receive date in order to age the inventory, and the system can either automatically allocate those goods by the last receive date in the location, or you can just print that on pick sheets, inventory pick sheets, so that the picker can decide which is the oldest two. So then scanning across, we of course see our quantity on hand. Inventory allocated, that's what's allocated in a bin location, hard allocated. There is no change to the regular MES 90 or Sage 100 quantity committed numbers. We keep track of the inventory that's allocated in a given transaction, whether that's in a return of goods, invoice data entry, sales order entry. What I could do is on the right-hand side over here is the alloc button. That gives me a drill down to see what is allocated. A lot of times we're using these hard allocations in order to direct the picker to go pick inventory. And that you see that here where it's saying SO entry, and you're seeing this one order is allocated from 2 different bin locations for this inventory. And it's telling the picker that he has to go pick the inventory from these locations. When the goods are picked, this is no longer going to be SO entry. The goods, or pardon me, when it's picked or invoiced or gone into shipping data entry, this will say SO invoice as opposed to entry. So you always have, and when there's inventory allocated, you know where it's allocated. So I just discussed and directed picking using it where it's allocated to the sales order, but we also allocate it most everywhere else. So if you're doing a return of goods, you're going to temporarily hard allocate that inventory so that the system doesn't mistakenly go after that inventory. Or if you're in a transfer and you haven't updated the transaction, it might be out there as a hard allocated also. So the other way of using our allocations, and I'll talk about this more to reaffirm, I'm sort of just talking theory here for a second, but we can do hard allocations against sales order manually in sales order entry, and we do that so maybe we're reserving inventory for the sales order for a future shipment. Maybe we're waiting on some inventory to come back in so you can do a better fulfillment on the sales orders. So that's a drill down on the quantity allocated. So we have these buttons over here for options and drill downs. Some of the other options, actually I'll come back to that. So the quantity allocated net available, and then this is the last issue date. This is the date the inventory last went out of the bin location, and that might be useful so that you know how often the inventory has been coming out of bin locations. Last counted date is the date that the inventory has been last counted in physical count, whether there was a variance or not. The system keeps track of that for you, and then you'll see in physical count that you can do a selection on that, help your cycle counting. Then coming back to the buttons, pardon me, the first 3 options or first 3 buttons are options in the system. They're not drill downs, and we'll talk about those options here in a second. The other ones here, the allocation, of course, drill down for allocations, and then this is drill down for the detail history. So let's talk about detail history for 1 second. Regular Sage 100 keeps track of 1 record for every line in your transaction to notate the sale of the goods or the return of goods or what happened in that transaction, of course. So we keep our own history file, and that's the IM404_bin location history. And in that history file, we keep track of all the transactions out of every bin location. So for example, if I sold inventory out of 3 different bin locations on one line on an invoice, that will show 3 records in our history to show each location the inventory came out of. Also, what we keep track of are some more things. So there are the basic things in Sage 100 that we keep track of every transaction. But in addition, we keep track of the movement from location to location. Also, we keep track of who does what. As you can see, there's a lot of RON here. So that if there's a movement of inventory from one location to another, you know who did it. And the RF handhelds that connect into the system will also, whenever they do a transaction, it ties into our applications, and so that you get that level of audit trail. So if you're moving inventory from one location to another in the warehouse, you know who moved it, when it was moved, and what was moved. The other thing that we also keep track of in here is sales order allocations. And I'm going to change this display and say include sales order allocations, and I hit the display button. So now this is showing me just inventory movements, quantity on hand movements in the system. So allocations is where we've done directed picking or manually allocated inventory of the sales order. And I'll come back to this as we do one here in a little bit, but I wanted to emphasize that the detailed history keeps track of the allocations, and so you know what the system has allocated, or if someone manually selected some inventory, and then when it was invoiced and what location it was subsequently invoiced or shipped from. So you have that complete audit trail of what has been reserved for any given order and subsequently went out the door if that's important to you. So I'll get out of here, out of the history. And by the way, there are reports. Under inventory reports, we have these same options too. So the reporting of the allocations and reporting of the detailed history too. So I'm going to move over to another item here, and let me show you the transfer. Here I'm going to do a transfer of this inventory, 6 pieces from one location to another. I'm going to select that first button. There was 2 buttons right here, and if I click on a line, this one will be lit up, and this is giving me the ability to move just this one item out of this bin location to another bin location. So I have, in this case, 6 pieces in this bin location in C1011, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and move that over into about defectives. When I do that transfer, it went ahead and moved the inventory from one location to another, and now you can see it's in defectives, and defectives is disabled so that no users can select any of that inventory. You see the disabled sales order. And note the date that it was received in the bin location. It carried over the original receipt date in the bin location. If you don't want that, and you always want it to be today's date when the inventory moved, then there's an option, and we'll talk about that when we get to options here. But so moving inventory from one location to another, and if I'm not moving that inventory from a receiving staging location or a staging location where I've done production, I can carry over the original receipt date into that bin location, and that's what I did here. So I did that quick transfer. I can click the detail button here. I'll scroll down to the bottom here, and you can see that Ron moved 6 pieces out of this bin location and dropped it in and put it into this defective bin location. So that tool that I just used is also the same tool that's used by RF handhelds. The other way to do transfers is to use this other button. It's called, we refer to it as the group transfer. This pulls up everything that's in the on the screen that you're working on. For example, I'm in inventory maintenance, and so by clicking on that, it's pulling up all my inventory in all the inventory and bin locations just for this item. So if I do the same in bin location maintenance, which I'll do in a minute, it will pull up all the inventory in that bin location. We make it simple to move all the inventory or just some of the inventory. You can click on it. You can click the green button over here. You can select all the inventory, select the destination bin location, and transfer. The reference on here, pallet ID, that works with our license plate add-on, and so when you see that, just know that's part of the add-on for that. Okay, so that's the other way to do transfer of goods. And then the third way to do transfer of goods is using transaction entry. Typically in Sage 100, you can only move inventory from one warehouse to another. I could do a transfer within the same warehouse, so if I'm rotating inventory, I can select the same warehouse. Let's say I'm selecting this item. We try to make it simple here so that you can select inventory, just like this, and then the destination, and then the quantity be transferred, and then the destination bin location. So here I'm moving 10 pieces from A30U to A10M. And up on top here, we're showing that we're going from it's the same warehouse to warehouse. I could have clicked on the grid button, and that will display all my quantity available for this item, and I can use this as my other way to do transfers. I can select the rest of the 90 here, and the destination bin location. So what do we have on this screen? When I did the transfer, first of all, I did my entries left to right. You can't go, fill in the quantities and then the destination bin location in columns. You have to work left to right. And then the options on the right-hand side have to do with keeping control of the last receipt date in the bin location. The system automatically calculates that, knowing your staging locations and all that, and so you don't often have to change that. So in my case here, I'm doing a transfer from one location to another, and it's considering this just a issue of inventory back over to this other location. When it says issue, that means it senses that it's going to change the last issue date out of the for the location the inventory is coming out of. Again, it's nothing you have to worry about, but unless you want to keep control or override the settings the system's automatically doing, then you can leave it alone. The other options in here are none, which means that don't carry over the original. Or sorry, don't change the receipt date to today's date. Go ahead and carry over the original receipt date. When I do a put away, that means that I'm transferring goods into a bin location, and that it will carry over the original receipt date. And then the issue will go ahead and release the inventory. I'm sorry, it's the original receipt date. He'll put in today's date, pardon me. So try that one more time. A put away will put today's date. The none option will carry over the original receipt date from the source bin location. The issue will reference today's date of when the inventory came out of. And if you have the both option, it will do both. Both the issue and the put away will reference today's date. And again, you don't have to worry about it. So anyway, just by doing the data entry here in the screen, I'm able to complete a transfer from one location to another in the same warehouse. I can do the same. Let's see, what did I have here? Oh, I over-distributed, didn't I? I had, sorry about that. What did I have here? Okay, so if I were to do this for a lotted good, when I select the lookup here, the lookup always provides the ability to do two things at the same time. Select both the lot and the location, so you don't have two fields to input on. So here, by selecting this lot and this location, it's going to autofill both of those fields. And of course, I can use the grid in order to do the data entry, just as I was doing earlier. Okay. Now, the system's very sensitive to our features to turn off multi-bin and warehouse management by warehouse and product line maintenance, and I'll show where those options here in a little bit. So if I were to do a transfer to a warehouse that doesn't have where we turned off multi-bin, I could do something like this. It will be sensitive to that and not require a bin location. So in this case, I'll transfer 10 pieces of this inventory from one location to another. And notice here it's showing me on top that I have the destination warehouse is disabled, and note the right-hand side is not requiring a bin location. Had I disabled that for a product line, it would be sensitive to that. And that makes it easy so that you don't have to have all your warehouses turned on for multi-bin. You know, you might have some warehouses that are smaller that you choose not to use multi-bin, or maybe you're just getting going and you're starting up with the system. So to finish off the transfers, we did 3 kinds of transfers: the quick transfer, the group transfer, and the transaction entry transfer. Now there's one more thing I want to talk about on transfers. If I were to go into role maintenance, and I'd like to take a minute here to talk about the security events in the system. And we'll come back to this as needed in a little bit. But there's 7 of them that we provide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of them that we provide. So they're all under inventory and security events inventory. And in order to do a transfer, you need the quick transfers that I was just showing you. You need this right here, and that gives you the ability to do a quick transfer of inventory from one location to another in inventory maintenance, bin location maintenance, and inventory inquiry. The reason we do that is in inventory inquiry, you might have someone that's in the warehouse that you want to grant rights to do transfers, but yet they don't have maintenance rights in the system or setup rights. The other options we're going to discuss more, but I just want to show you where these are, and as we discuss them later, you'll know that the security rights are right here. By the way, when I turn on the system and to do a new system, normally I set on a quick transfer for those that are involved in the inventory and that. But some of the other options, it's up to you whether or not you want to use them or not. And I'll discuss here in a minute. So here, this gives hold. That allows you to put a hold on the inventory or release inventory. So this is a hold, and then the release right is down here. The ability to add bin locations on the fly. So for example, you're doing a receipt of goods and you want the ability to set a new location, create a new location on the fly. You need the rights to do that. You could do that on transfers too, and other places when you're not committing inventory. This is an override, a supervisor override of quantities, and it's rarely put on, and I recommend leaving it off. The ability, the multi-bin pick from restricted bin location. So restricted inventory in a bin is set up in bin location maintenance. We're going to talk about those options. There's about 4 or 5 of them, and that's where you're seeing the inventory in red. I'll pull up the inventory maintenance screen. Like this is a pick restriction because the inventory is held. That's disabled from sales order, and we did that in the bin location. So those are pick restrictions. So when you're in sales order entry or sales order entry, and you're manually allocating inventory, maybe you don't want some users to have access to that inventory. So this option right here says, okay, don't give me or grant rights to go ahead and pick that restricted inventory. We can limit it from the user's view with this option, and without this right here, you can't even see it in the list of inventory. So this is multi-bin C restricted bin locations. Okay, so the other option here was release, and I talked about the alternative to that, hold and release. So these are the security events that we provide in the system. We also have these in the back of the manual in the appendix. As a reminder, you can always refer back to that if you have any questions. Okay, so go back to inventory maintenance. Just want to finish discussion here on looking at inventory and transfers. The last button down here is your ability to enter user-defined field information to your quantity on hand inventory. So we have nice steps laid out in the manual, and I'll talk a little bit about it later, but I wanted to highlight this button. This button is also in bin location maintenance so that you have the ability to set your own fields to the inventory, and this gives you a place to enter in data, and we also give you the ability to put it in transaction screens, whether you're in distributing and sales order, invoicing, receiving, and so on. Over on the left-hand side, I just want to highlight a couple things. It is giving you a summary of your quantity on hand inventory. You can see with this drop box here, I'm looking at my inventory by the location type, my pick, and what's in my primary bin locations versus in staging locations. And I also can view it in terms of region. I can see that my quantity available in different regions. We also have a not so known feature of improving or speeding up your transfers. So for example, let me go over here. So if I'm on this item here and I'm looking at this by region, and let's say if I want to move everything in a staging location, I can select it over here and then do the group transfer. So when I hit that group transfer button, it knew that I selected on the left-hand side. It was sensitive to that. So it not only pulled that inventory up on the screen, but it already selected it. So all I need to do is select the destination location and hit the transfer button. This is really handy in bin location maintenance where I'm going next. So bin location maintenance, this is under inventory and then setup. A list of my bin locations. And I just wanted to show here the use of the transfer, and then we'll come back to the setup here in a second. But here, if I was going to do a transfer, I could do, once again, the quick transfer from one location to another. I had to select a line within the screen, or the group transfer, and this allows me to select all my inventory or whatever I want and move it from one location to another. And this is great when you're rotating inventory on the fly. And then of course we have these options over here. So just as I showed you here in inventory maintenance, even though I have three lines here for three lots in this bin location for this one item, by clicking here on the left-hand side, my group transfer is sensitive to that, and it selected all three lots for me automatically, and I just once again select the destination bin location and then hit the transfer button. Okay, so we're going to come back to some of these concepts. What I want to do here is just take 1 minute to pause, see if there's any questions. And the next step we're going to do is we're going to do a quick startup of a company. It only takes about 2 minutes, and just so that you have the overview of how to do a quick setup. And then we're going to get into location types and directed picking. So any questions or anything that we need to get into right now, Brandy?
We've had a couple of questions in the question box, but I think I've handled all of those. If anybody wants to be unmuted, now would be the time to raise your hand and ask questions about anything that Ron's just reviewed.
Anything on inventory maintenance, transfers, quick transfers, looking at inventory, history of inventory. Okay.
And I don't see any hands, so I think you're all right.
Okay, I'll take it that we're doing good. Okay, so what I've done is I've got a TST company set up right here, and what I want to do is turn it on. So first of all, after installing the software, I just want to highlight the activation of the software. You know, typically we provide an activation key. It's a file, and you can copy it into the ACS group folder under the MAS90 folder. And then when you come in here, you hit the activate button, and then that'll set your activation. Sometimes we do it electronically by the web, and you'd be instructed if in the instructions if so. But after doing that, we recommend doing prepare data. All you got to do is hit this button, and then it will ask to go through all your companies or just the same company that you're in. We recommend hitting the all button, and it doesn't remove any data, doesn't erase anything, doesn't hurt anything. You can do it most any time. Well, no one can be in the system. That's about the only limitation. No one can be in like sales order entry or anything like that. Okay, so you do that, and then the other step or the other thing we recommend is that you when you're getting going with the system, you set it up in a test company. Copy your live company data into a test company code, and then do that prepare data I just discussed. Come in here, go into multi-bin options. This is under inventory setup. I'm going to click this button to enable multi-bin for this company. When I hit accept, it's going to do a minor preparation of data. It's actually the same prepare that we just did. Now it's asking me which warehouses that I want to enable for multi-bin and warehouse management. Okay, so I hit the continue button, and it will take me right into the initialization. Once again, even though it says initialization, it's not removing anything or erasing anything. Now, it's right now disabled all the warehouses, so that means just by turning it on and not initializing a warehouse, it means all the warehouses are turned off, so all the regular MES 90 ways of doing things are in place. So here I can select warehouse 000. It says, hey, this is disabled. I'll hit continue. Now, it's asking me, do I want to use the item warehouse primary bin locations? So typically users know who they are, if they have primary bin locations or not, and I'll just reinforce what that means. So what this means is and it's asking you is, in Sage 100, in here, do you have bin locations in here? So sometimes users over time have used that as comments, or have used that like a real bin location, then go comma, another bin location, or so on. So if you think the data in there is not very good, you might want to leave that option unchecked. Okay, but by turning it on, what it will do is it will create this bin location for you and put all your inventory for that item into that location. So it's a great quick start of getting going in the system. If you don't do that, then what we do is we just have you put all your inventory into a bin location, and then of course you can just import your bin locations or go ahead and create them. So there's nothing bad or by not using it, but if your operation uses these bin locations, this is what I'm about to show you really will be a great quick start. So I'm going to turn that option on, and then what it's asking you here is the default bin location. So if there's a inventory item that doesn't have a primary bin location designated already, then what is it supposed to do? I'm telling it, go ahead and put it into a start bin location. So in this case, I'm doing an add bin location on the fly. I'm just going to accept the defaults, hit proceed, and now what it's done is it created 80 multi-bin records out there for my inventory. And in fact, I was sitting on this screen, wasn't I? And you can see right away now, I'm back on one of the items here, and you can see that I have all my inventory for this one item in this bin location. If I were to go into under inventory setup and then bin location maintenance, you can see that I have all my bin locations automatically created, and then I already have, and I can scan through here, and you can already see my inventory. The next step would be to do a pick sheet. I recommend doing a quick print, or it doesn't matter. In my case, I'm going to do a quick print. And here it's asking you which sheet to use. Now, we'll talk more about the pick sheets that the templates we provide, but the first one that says across is used for printing multi-bin inventory on a pick sheet. This one, the next one, it says rows, is used for directed picking when you're using our allocations to print on the pick sheet, and it's designed specifically for that. You can also print inventory on that, but it's definitely used for allocations only. Whoops, and look at that. I selected the wrong one, didn't I? How silly is that? Let me try that one more time. Cross. So I selected that one, and here I'm just going to do a quick print, set it in my system, and so you can see right away there was, let's see, which one do I, maybe I don't have inventory. Oh, I did warehouse 00, that was 001. Yeah, I'm going to change to warehouse. I remember I left 001 disabled, and that's why that page was blank. And in this case, I'm doing a quick print, and here it's printing all my available inventory, and I just have that one little bit of inventory in there. And it is showing it's a primary bin location. I neglected to say that when I had that checkbox in initialization. So just like that, we turned on the system, we initialized our multi-bin inventory, and we created a pick sheet. And for businesses that are pretty much using our system to get going for multi-bin, that's it. That's how you do a setup. Now, all the options that we have here in multi-bin options, so now I'm under inventory and then setup, and I'll go here in multi-bin options. When we set the initial options in the most conservative way and where there's nothing automatic going on, so you really have a good basic multi-bin setup. If you were to look on some of the options here, yes, I could do pre-allocations and sales order entry. On the pick sheets, this option says disallow picking sheet auto allocations. So that means it's not doing anything automatically as I print pick sheets. And then over here on receiving, it's not automatically selecting a bin location for me on receipt of goods. So that is the quick way to set up a company, and especially and for multi-bin sake, you're virtually done. All right. So the one other thing I wanted to talk about here is the lay of the land of where we are. You saw me click in a few places, and I just wanted to give a quick overview of where we are, because we're tightly integrated with Stage 100 and all the screens. You see me going into picking sheet printing to pick the pick sheets. You see me looking in inventory maintenance to look at my inventory, and I'm using the regular menus in the inventory to get the setup screens. And that's where we are. So just as an overview, off the main menu, an inventory management main menu, you can see that we just have a new option down here for multi-bin location inquiry, pallet ID queries using with our license plate, looking at pallet inventory, and then this replenishment dashboard is to provide on-screen replenishment of inventory. It's great to look at your quantity on hand information here in inventory maintenance and inventory inquiry. Remember, if you had the transfer rights, inventory item inquiry will let you also do a transfer of inventory. Of course, in physical count, we don't have anything independent on the screen, but you know that we're in the worksheet and count card and physical count data entry and the variance register and so on. Under reports, we don't change any of the stock Sage 100 reports, and those are from here on down to right here. So those are all left alone, and then we provide our reports here on down. We provide a multi-bin oriented stock status and valuation report, detail history report. The capacity report gives you the ability to report on your inventory in bin locations by the location's capacity of how full it is. The multi-bin allocation report, you saw that when I was looking at allocations and inventory maintenance, that allows me, this report allows me to have a report of those allocations by task. So maybe I did a directed picking, I printed pick sheets, I allocated inventory, but then shipments were going through the day, and I wanted to see what hasn't been shipped. This is one way of doing it. Or you want to see what is allocated to my sales orders, and you can report on that by bin location, by item, or by the sales order document, for example. But of course, you can do anything else that's been allocated. This is an allocation report. Directed put away report provides advisement to put goods away from staging locations, so that includes the receipt of goods staging location, and staging goods for when you produce goods, so either whether bill of materials and work order. This is a setup report so that you have a breakdown of which items are associated to which location types. Primary bin location replenishment report provides a replenishment advisement on how to replenish your primary bin locations. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And these reports have to do with other add-ons in our system. So the vendor lot, the expiration date, vendor lot traceability is good for perishable goods. These two options for that, and for license plate, the pallet reports are down here. Then where else we are is if that's said right, under inventory and then setup. Then you saw me go into multi-bin options. These are company-wide options. We'll be talking about that in just 1 minute. And then the setup of locations. You saw me go in here, look at inventory and bin location, and doing transfers from here. Then to set up zones in your warehouse and to group bin locations, we provide the region maintenance. You can do a drill down from location maintenance if you want to create one on the fly too. And then pallet ID maintenance and type code maintenance, these are used for license plate on pallet and case back inventory. Okay, so that's it. Everything else is embedded with everything you do in Sage 100. So that's the lay of the land, and hopefully by this design it makes it easy for you to use the system. Okay, so what we want to do here now is get into directed picking and the use of location types. So I wanted to just take 1 minute here and show how we have our directed picking options. In order to do that, I've got to get into our multi-bin options selection. And so under inventory setup, multi-bin options, when I selected this, if there's users in the system, we do allow you in there. We lock down a few fields that are important to us that we don't want you to change when the user is in the system. So that's all this message is saying. It's not like this regular Sage 100 option screens where it locks you down and you can't change anything. Most of the fields that we lock down are here on the main screen, like the ability to pre-allocate and sales order entry and that. But so I'll talk about the different options here in a second, but I did want to take a minute here to talk about directed picking and the location types, and then and show how we tie all this together and look at the design of a warehouse. And so directed picking, first of all, as you print a pick sheet, you can automatically allocate inventory. Or there's other options to automatically allocate inventory from locations even as you save an order too. So if I want to do this automatically, then it wants to know some of the rules in place. So we have location types to help you define these rules. First of all, the top section here refers to the pick area or the pick locations. Now, you can have primary bin locations that are in the pick that's a pick location type, and then you can have just regular pick locations. So it's asking you, do you want to auto-allocate automatically from the primary bin locations first? Typically, users who have primary bin locations want to pull from there first. What is primary bin locations? That's where you set up a location tied back to an item. A location is tied back to an item. And we do that here in inventory maintenance. So I just want to jump around a little bit, but we'll put it all together in a little bit. So, actually here I'm into my test company. Let me see if I have it down here. I have so many screens open. Here's my ABC company. So note I have these 4 bin locations that are primary bin locations. So I can click in here and I can select these locations to this one item. And what this says is I want to go in this location, this pick order when I'm doing directed picking. A10L first, 30L next, 30M next, and so on. Then these are replenishment options. So it says I want to maintain a minimum of 40 on hand in this bin location for this item. So what this means is you can have more than one item, and that can be designated as a primary bin location. And then you can have its own rules of what the minimum replenishment point is. And then I set what the maximum is. So it says 40 is the replenishment point, maximum 100 for this location, and so on. So these are my primary bin location, and then replenishment for each of these locations. Okay. I wanted to pause 1 minute because we do have a new option here. It's down here as warehouse primary bin locations replenishment overrides. So this gives you the ability to do replenishment for the entire warehouse for this one item. So if I say, for example, 10 here, and then let's say I had 0 going across the board for all these locations, that would mean that out of all 4 of these bin locations that's in this warehouse, I want to maintain a minimum of 10. And our replenishment system will be cognizant of that. The reason we did this is so that you have the ability not only to put primary bin locations in this setup, but we also give you the ability to put designate a primary bin location with the item, with the bin location too. So an item can be associated right with the bin location. So let's say you had 10 bin locations, primary bin locations in your warehouse, and you want to maintain a minimum of 50 of them in there. But let's say you have back stock or overflow, and then you have another warehouse and you want to rotate inventory in there. You don't care how much is in each individual primary bin location. You just want to make sure you have that minimum level so that your picker knows to pick. So we give you two options to do this replenishment, and I wanted to cover all that with you. But we'll come back to these options here. I wanted to finish the discussion on the directed picking and location types. So primary bin locations, you can see there are several options. There's the replenishment things that I was showing you. And then we have these other location types. There's floor. Floor gives you the ability to have like another pick location. Really, there's nothing special about floor. It's just another group of bin locations. Could have been called pick 2. But we do give you this option to pick first. And you'll see that in the design of my warehouse, I want to pull inventory out of there first. And you'll see how that's done. We also have other location type, and that's used for just nothing more than a pick location 3, or just so that you want to set another priority to pick your inventory in a different area of the warehouse. Maybe you have 2 buildings, and you want to clear out your first building before you have your picker run over to the next building. But yet, let's say you didn't want warehouse codes in the system. It would be great if you say, well, let's go to the other locations in building 2 in a third priority. So third priority means clear my primary bin locations first, clear out my pick locations second. I forgot about floor. We did floor too. But then go my other after that. So it's a good way to pool your inventory. Now these options here that says received in location FIFO and receipt date FIFO. So what this means is it's going to grab the oldest inventory first out of a bin location for non-lot serial goods. So you got lot, serial, and then you got for non-lot serial goods are average, standard cost, FIFO, and LIFO. And out of those algorithms, I say, you know what, just get the oldest one. And that's using the last received date. Now I don't want to do too much here because we're talking about location types and how they apply to my warehouse. But we do have these other algorithms in place, and I'll get back to that. I just want to show here how I have the overflow locations unchecked. By unchecking it, that makes it so that the system is not going to automatically get inventory out of my overflow locations. Why do I do that? Because maybe that's my inventory that's on the very top shelf and it's out of reach. And I don't want the system to go, I want to keep track of that inventory, but I don't want to tell the picker to go up there unless I'm out of inventory. Or, so I could do that. I could say, I can have this checked on and have this 4th place in picking, and that way it'll only get there if it completely runs out of inventory in all these places, the pick area, the floor, the other building I was just telling you about, and then it can tell you to go to the top shelf. But in my case, I can leave it unchecked, so that way, because I can use this also for my back stock, and so maybe so that I have sufficient inventory in my pick area, and I want to keep my picker there, but I only want my picker to go in my overflow locations if I'm completely out, or pardon me, or if I have a large order. So what we say here is we uncheck our overflow so that we don't tell the picker to go to our back stock, but we have this option here to jump to overflow, and that says, look, if I have a very large order of 100 pieces or whatever, or if I selected a goods unit measure conversion code and sales order, then it will allocate the order out of my back stock, out of my overflow. So I was able to leave my overflow out of my picking rotation, but I was able to get over there with this checkbox. So this checkbox says, hey, when I get going, it's going to look at this option over here, and I'm back in inventory, and it says, if I have an order for 500 pieces, take it out of my back stock. Don't take it out of my regular pick area. Okay. The other thing on location types here is staging location. It's commonly good to leave that out of your normal pick rotation of picking goods. What is that? That's my receipt of goods bin location, my return of goods. If I were to go in bin location maintenance here, I could do something like this, and you can see all my, where's my staging locations? Staging locations, defectives, quality control, receiving, return of goods, shipping. So even in shipping, in all these situations, these are staged. This is staged inventory, and there's no need to have this. The goods aren't ready for picking in all these situations. So by excluding that in my directed picking setup, I'll never send a picker over there. Okay, so the way this works in our warehouse, just to show this in a graphical point of view here, just to recap these location types. My regular pick locations are pardon me, it's bounced down a little bit here. Oh, that's my manufacturer here. So these are my regular pick locations down here. Here comes receiving. Goods come in through here. This is my receiving staging location. So notice I called that a staging location. Remember, those are restricted. So the system's never going to automatically pick those goods. It comes in receiving. I have my returns staging location here. Great place to just drop them there. And there too, it's a staging location and it's excluded from automatic picking. I can also disable it, and if you remember what I did with the quality control bin location, I can disable it from sales orders so no one can ever pick goods from returns. I have my back stock over here. These are my overflow locations. This is where I have my pallets and large case packs. I really just want to go over here because when I have a large order, you know, maybe what I do is I receive goods in and I put it right into my overflow location, my backstock location, and then I rotate it into my picking area as needed. By the way, our put-away report will advise that too when you're out of stock, and it will advise to put in your pick locations or your primary pick locations. So this is the entrance of goods coming over here. This is where my primary pick locations are, right down here, and all these locations down here. Primary pick locations and my regular pick locations. Whenever you create any bin location in the system, it is a pick right away. Okay. And then what I do too here is I have these region codes assigned to it, because I'll show you the new feature to sort by region code and how we do that. Okay, in the middle here, I have my floor. So what I might do is transfer goods to the floor so that it will be ready for a quick pick. So I could produce a transfer pallets of goods out of here, out of my overflow, or out of my regular pick area, drop them in here so that when I'm in shipping, and this is my shipping dock or shipping staging location, I can quickly grab goods for those quick pick orders. Maybe it's pallets of goods and it's just some regularly sold goods, high sellers, just drop them there for my day of selling. Okay? And then over here, maybe kits and light assembly, and I can use a floor location there too so that I get my finished goods that I might do light assembly work, and that'll be right here. And as a floor, if you recall, my directed picking, I said, go there first, so that it will pull my finished goods right from this area where I assembled these goods. So I'm shipping here, I just go here. I got my quick pick real quick here. And then you note the pick flow here of coming with the arrows going around here. And we'll talk about that for wave picking of allocations. You're going to be sick of allocations, the word allocations today, maybe. And just a little bit on manufacturing. I have a manufacturing layout down here. And here, whether it be the same business with that one or whether this is just a manufacturing company, here too we have a pick area for common raw materials that are picked. These could be primary bin locations or regular pick locations, the P location type. And then over here I can have next to the production workstations and where I'm producing goods, I can have locations that are near where I'm producing goods. Why do I do that? So that I can replenish, so I can quick pick inventory for what I'm producing. And if I call those, if I assign a region code to that, so if I group them together with the region code, I can do transfers to those locations quickly and easily, and I can report on what, you know, my quantity on hand status by these by these region codes or production lines, okay? And maybe I have WIP over here. That's a good staging location. You'll see how I can have a staging location for WIP and how I can auto-allocate out of there. I'm going to show that to you next because you got to see where the staging locations are. And then so on, quality control, another staging location. Maybe when I produce goods, it comes out of here, if the finished goods lands right into quality control, and you see how I can automatically set those. Okay. So if I were to jump in the system, there again, I'm here under inventory and setup and warehouse code maintenance, and this is my distribution company here. You can see it in the staging locations for my distribution company: receiving, return of goods, shipping. And let me switch over to my manufacturer. And here too, my staging locations are set up over here. So for bill of materials and work order, I can designate my raw materials and my finished goods staging locations. And that way I can auto-allocate the raw materials out of the staging location if I wanted to, and produce my goods. That could have been, this could have been quality, right? I had WIP or quality, what have you, on that. So the way that works is, and manufacturing is pretty simple. If you do back flushes or auto issues, then we can auto-allocate that inventory for you. So the way the manufacturing setup screen works is like this. The top section refers to for the finished goods. What do you want it to do? Do you want it to auto-assign the primary bin location for that item, or do you want to auto-assign the staging location, the WIP location, where my inventory is going to, or quality control, or none? Maybe you don't want it to do anything, and that's good too. So those are default settings you can set in there. And then for raw materials, taking the inventory out, you know, if you're using multi-bin for the first time, your procedures are not, you know, if you don't have the built-in procedures to do multi-bin transactions, then you're going to like the idea of doing automatic issues or back flushes to automatically allocate inventory, especially if you're a business that's not doing lot serial goods, you know, average costed or FIFO goods. And so what I could do here for my raw materials is I can pull my goods out of the staging location here. So that for my case, in my example, what was that? That was my WIP staging location sub-assemblies. I had my raw materials in here. So what I could have done is, rather than pull the inventory right out of these bin locations and brought it to the machine, what I could have done is I could have transferred the inventory out of my pick locations, put it into WIP or into the staging location, so that then when I'm producing inventory, it's going to just pull it right out of here at all times. So here I'm pulling goods out of the warehouse that WIP location, and there's a couple options to note about that. It says, well, I'll just pull it out of that location. It says here, only out of that primary or staging location. So that's what this says here for my non-lot serial good. Only get it out of that staging location. It won't look elsewhere in order to go get inventory. Or maybe what I want to do is overload that bin and allow negative. What this means is it will pull the inventory out of my WIP location regardless of my quantity available. Why do I do that? Because maybe I didn't replenish my WIP staging location yet. So I don't want to stop everything that I'm doing in bill of materials or work order. I want to continue working, but so I say go ahead and take the inventory out of the WIP location regardless of my quantity available. And that's why we say this: overload bin and allow negative. And then, or this is just the next bin location. If you wanted to go search around bin locations and all that, that's the next bin location. But I wanted to highlight these options here. By the way, if you wanted to allow to go negative, over here on the main screen, you have to select this option, allow to exceed quantity available for non-lot serial goods. Okay, that's a little talk. That's a lot of options. I know we talked a lot there about allocations and everything. One of the great advantages of allocations, so where the system automatically allocates the inventory, or it's allocated from those rules that we were talking about, is inventory will be optimized for the pick flow. and it will save a lot of time in data input. And it will also make it easier on the RF handhelds to direct you through the warehouse. So using our system here for the option, I'll show you how I have these options, but this is using our wave pick sheet for directed picking. And here it's walking me through the warehouse. It started at the WIP warehouse, WIP bin location, which is down here. I happen to select some inventory down on my manufacturing side. And so you'll see I selected inventory out of here, but then, and then you'll see that it's walking me through the warehouse, my pick locations like this. I'm coming down this aisle here, and then as I go up this aisle here, I'm not going up one side and coming down another. I'm picking left to right. With the settings using our sort code, you can go picking left to right, and you don't have to go back and forth down this aisle. Okay, so in my example here, you can see here I'm picking inventory first on that manufacturing, then I come over here, I'm at A20M over here, B10L, I'm right here. Let's see, B10U, it's probably right there, and then B20M up here, and then it's coming around over here, and it's picking on this side, C10L, right over here, right there, and then O1 is the last one over there, and that's taking me over here. So the picker would come down like this, and then shoot over here, pick something out of overflow. Just did that for the example. And now that sales order is done, and drop it off here to ship it. Okay, so now that that's been allocated on here using the rules, it's optimized. It optimizes the pick flow. If I pull that sales order up, you can see where my quantity allocated here is. We show that to the screen. If you wanted to drill down, you can drill down to it, do overrides to it. If you wanted to clear it and give inventory to another sales order on the main panel, we have this clear sales order pre-allocations right here. And then this was order 198. And then the real nice thing about this, and I'm going to move this down here, is that you told the picker what to go get. And so then, oh, I'm in the wrong company here. You told the picker what to go get, and then the picker picks it, and then when you ship it, it's going to pull those allocations right across. There's no double keying of inventory or data input. So you hear, all I did was select the sales order and defaulted the quantity 30 for this item. If I were to drill down in here, you can see that it pulled the 2 bin locations right here. 30 pieces for this. This is allotted inventory right here. This one only came out of 1 bin location, out of B10L. And let's say down over here, this one here, this is 2 different lots out of 2 different bin locations. Let's say, oh, the picker didn't pull that inventory. So if the picker did pull that inventory on the pick sheet, it could have remarked it or X'd it out. So I could do this. I can go in here. I can select the other inventory from the other bin location just like that. So you can work by exception. You look at the pick sheet has no remarks, then then all you got to do is select that sales order and shipping data entry or invoice data entry, pulls all that across, and you're done. If there are exceptions, of course, you can make those changes here in shipping data entry. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is just want to show you that was it. I'm done on this invoice. I can print the packing slip and go to my next order. So what I want to do is do a cancel on this and bring this back into sales order entry. And then what I wanted to show you is the other ways of handling this. It's nice how just because I pulled in an invoicing, we were able to retrieve those allocations and monitor all that. So the other way of handling this with what I just did with the RF handheld is the following. So the inventory was allocated. It's nice on the pick sheet. I told the picker where to go pick the goods in the most optimum way, and then when he picks the goods with the RF handheld, the goods could have done one or two things. You could have invoiced it right there and then as you picked it, or you could have staged it. And so you pick it, transfers the inventory to a staging location, let's say shipping or staging, and now the order is allocated and it's sitting in the shipping dock, and then it's waiting for you to ship it. Maybe you're not shipping it the same day. Maybe there's other goods that you need to pull for that order, or maybe that's how your operations are. You typically stage it. And it's really nice if you're not shipping the same day. That way it keeps your plenty available good. If you stage your inventory on the pick and pack, if you do these pick and packs, then it frees up the quantity on hand that's referenced in the system in the bin location. So if it's days before you actually ship it, then you know it's freed up, and then you can go ahead and to replenish that location too. But anyway, when you do a pick and pack, it's staged in the staging location, it's sitting there, and then in order to ship it, there's no double keying of anything. All you got to do is select that sales order number in shipping or invoice data entry, and it will pull it across. So your inventory has been allocated still to the sales order, but it's sitting in the it's not allocated in sales or in the source bin location. It's in the destination bin location. So I realize that's a lot about allocations, and I just wanted to explain the choices here and reinforce those choices. The two choices are to allocate or not to allocate, auto-allocate or not to auto-allocate, and typically that's the choice. Sometimes businesses say, you know what, let's get going, let's just start printing inventory on pick sheets, my picker will pick it, and then when we invoice it, we got to select those bin locations, or we'll use an RF handheld to select those pick sheets, select that inventory. So in that point of view, I just want to close these locations, or these options. Got locations on the brain. So let's talk a little bit about some of these options I'm talking about here. So first of all, I'm going to go to picking sheets. And typically when you turn off auto allocations, it's done here. So it says disallow auto allocations. This way you don't leave it up to the user, the person who's printing the pick sheet, to make the choice if you're allocating inventory. So I'm going to turn this off to auto allocate inventory. And then we're going to do one more thing here on printing a wave pick sheet. I'm just going to say no. So now I just want to show that form template, what it looks like here. So I'm going to pick the same sales order that I was working with. I'm going to select a different template here, and I'll do a preview on this one. This is like a regular pick sheet with by the sales order lines or whatever option you have set in Sage 100. And here I'm printing each of those lines and then printing the available inventory on the pick sheet. Now these are all still pre-allocated. You can see I have 5 ordered, 5 allocated. And what we do when you have it pre-allocated still is we print it on the far left-hand side. And we're telling you right here, see it's allocated. That's telling the picker to go ahead and pick that. So I didn't intend to do that. So let me clear these allocations. It's asking me to redisplay the order. Just want to show you here the allocations over here. It's null. There's nothing there. So here I'm going to reprint my inventory pick sheet. So if I was, I could almost did that on purpose. So on this, on my options, I forgot that I had this option set over here. Only print sales order lines with allocations. Very popular feature, new feature, and what that does is it makes it so that if you're into printing allocations and you want to make it nice and clean on your pick sheets, not printing the allocations on the sales order pick sheet is a nice feature. So I've come back in here, and let me just show you on here on a regular pick sheet, printing the available inventory. And here we're printing the available inventory left to right. You can see here, it's showing you the primary bin location. This is a primary bin location, and then it's printing inventory left to right. You can see there's none allocated. And if you don't like all these fields, you could take them out. Sometimes I totally understand about the pallet IDs. You don't have license plate, or if you don't have lot serial, pull that out. This is just a sub-report in our template. You could just take our sub-report and copy it and put it into your own template if you have one going. And then, but the status is sometimes handy, especially if you have primary bin locations, or if you are allocating inventory and you want to see, hey, is this allocation or not? You could clearly see that this is a primary bin location, this is not, and this is not allocated either because we didn't print that notation as allocated. If you're just printing available inventory, this is a nice template to work with. And then I just wanted to show you on, this is printing available inventory on your pick sheets. Those options are right here. This section is about printing allocations, and I'll come back to that. These are options. These are the options related to just printing your available inventory. So maybe you have primary pick locations and you want those first. So it will print the primary bin locations first if you select this option, and then it will print the rest of available inventory left to right. If you have if you're using the sort code in bin location, I haven't talked about that yet, that can have your own user-defined way, or the last received date in a bin location, because we want to tell the picker which ones to, the oldest one is going to be on the far left-hand side. Now, even though it's not on the template, it's in the background, so you'll go in Crystal, and then you can select that field and add it to the Crystal output. But the field's in there. Okay, so I could say, oh, I'll print my primary bin locations first, but if I'm a lot serial item, print it in lot serial number order. And if you have a lot of inventory, and there's rows and rows of inventory on your pick sheets, you can say, no, I just want to print one row. Okay, so that's printing, the art of printing inventory on the pick sheet. And I'll just show it back again as a recap. And that's if you choose not to do directed picking automatic allocations. Okay, so I'll get out of that sales order, and back here in options, I'm going to turn this back on to say, okay, I'm going to turn off the option to disallow. So I want to allow it. I'll allow allocations. And so it says, when I go printing pick sheets, whether it's the quick print like I've been showing you, or in picking sheet printing from the menu, I'll say, go ahead and auto-allocate inventory from the bin locations as I print the pick sheets. The other option here is to only print the allocations. In other words, don't print my available inventory also. So I'm going to default that on, because most of the time when I print the pick sheet, I don't want to print my available inventory. I want to tell the picker I only want to show on there exactly what the picker needs to worry about. And then this option is what I had earlier on, and this says only print those lines that are allocated. That means it won't print a pick sheet at all if I have nothing allocated at all. Okay, this option over here to print allocations on bill of materials and work order pick sheets, that allows you to, in picking sheet printing for bill of materials, you can actually select a bill of materials production entry. So those that know bill of materials know what I'm talking about. There's a bill of materials production entry number. You can select it there, and it will print that the allocation, so what was selected on there. Very handy if you use our system to allocate the inventory, or if you take a lot of time to allocate your inventory in a batch and bill of materials or work order, then you can print those on the pick sheet. We give you a nice way of just printing those allocations. So you don't just have to print inventory, you can print those allocations there too. And then the other option is to talk about here. This is how I do want to print allocations on my pick sheet. And then this has to do with my wave pick sheet. We have two kinds of wave pick sheets built into the system. There's the wave pick sheet that's on the standard Mount Sage 100 pick sheet, and that's why I select the standard form. And we also have a group one where you can select multiple orders. So when you're done printing pick sheets, regular pick sheets, it will ask you, do you want to print a wave pick sheet for all the orders that you just printed? And that's a wave pick sheet. Now we also have an add-on called wave batch picking, notoriously, and that's separate, and that's not what this is about. This is built into the system, and there you go. So what I'm going to do is leave this as standard. Then there's two other options here to discuss. One is the sort order on the bin locations. One is I have this set to do it in sort code order. So that's using in bin location maintenance. I'll go right in here. And that's using this sort code, this print sort code right here. And you'll see here I've got some of these numbered. And I'll take you into my import of that so you can see how I set that up. But that's using this sort code so that I can do that wave picking I was showing you earlier. So there's that. And then the sort code for the regions in each section of my warehouse. Remember, I had the whip section come up first because that was the first stop in my picking. And then, but what we do here, and this is new, is we now have a sort code for our regions. So it's not a bin or sort region code order, so you don't have to worry about the code, your numbering scheme for the region codes. You can use this sort code in order to set up the sort order for your pickers. So you saw how I went to whip first, and then in my pick sheet I went to the A pick area next, and then I went into the overflow section next, which is 40. So that helps me easily control the sort order on this. So we'll come back to region maintenance in a second, but I just want to show what this option is here about, is to sort the pick sheets by region code, and that's here. And that's how I was able to achieve the wave pick sheet that I was showing you earlier. So, so in my business, what I could do is, in my warehouse, I can do the automatic allocations as I print the pick sheets. In this case, you see the quantity allocated here is null, and oh, I got to select the right form here. I wanted my rows one here, and when I do that, that went away like that. But anyway, here I just auto allocated the inventory. It looked at my rules and allocated. I'm doing a lot of allocations from the primary bin locations and so on. And then the other way of using this same template for the wave picking is I can print the available inventory. So I can uncheck this. Now I know this on the output it's going to look a little big here, but if you choose to, you can say, okay, I'm going to tell the picker to go to A20L and pick 30. I'm telling them it's in section A pick here, but then you know, if you want, you can also go to these other bin locations, and it's telling you about that. And I also have the option to only print one additional row of inventory, and that's why you see it stopped here. I actually have a lot more inventory for this one item. This one here, and so on. So a couple different ways of using our options. In my case, if you remember in options, I set it so that it will default to only print the allocations. And so so if, let's say, the picker goes out there, picks the inventory, doesn't find the inventory there, or finds an issue with the inventory, maybe what you want to do is then come back, reprint that pick sheet like so, and print the available inventory on there too. Or I could have left this in my options, and it could have been that way all along. Okay, so that's a lot on picking and allocation and rules, wave picking and going in and out. There's a couple additional options I wanted to talk about on that, but you know, there was a lot there, and I bounced through a lot of screens. I tried to stick into a few places: the multi-bin options, and the region maintenance under setup, and so on. So you can see in the system, if you get into allocations, if you just take a little time, you can get the options just right, and it's not that hard. So let's pause for a second, see if there's any questions. What do you think?
We're good in the questions box. If anybody would like to be unmuted for questions, just go ahead and raise your hand, and I can go ahead and do that for you. All right, looks like we're good.
All good. Okay, there's a test tomorrow. There really is. So, but the good news is you get $100 if you pass the test. Okay. So come back over here. I just want to show you here on the item here. When we were doing the automatic allocations and all that business, the system's keeping track of what was done, and you might recall, and I thought I'd show you some of that, how it's doing that. I could switch this to only and display only the allocations that's going on for this one sales order 197, 196. As I'm clearing allocations, it's removing it. As I was invoicing, it's clearing the allocations and so on. But if you want to know who's doing what to an order, there is a full audit trail what's going on. The other option too is I was using pick and sheet printing to do the allocations. And that's because I set it here in options. We beat this thing to death, you probably got all that. So I said, hey, as I print pick sheets to allocate. The other way to allocate with these options is as you enter it. So on the main panel here, pre-allocate and sales order entry, it's got a few options. If it's set to yes, that means I can pre-allocate the sales order entry manually, of course, picking sheet. So that, but if I want to do it as I just save the order, I can set it like this. This is to auto-allocate as I save the order. What that does here, and I'll just take 1 minute to show how this works, is, by the way, this clear sales order allocation, sales order pre-allocation is enabled if there is an allocation on the sales order. So I'll clear it in my case. And then I'll redisplay it. So see how it's dull now? I don't have an allocation on this one. So this is because I turned on the option to auto-allocate the order as I save the order, this is lit. This is this is enabled here. So the way this checkbox works is if I create a new sales order, and with that option on, this option will be defaulted on. So then when I save the sales order, that's how it knows to go ahead and auto-allocate. In my case, I have an existing sales order. I cleared allocations and all that, and if I want to, and it's defaulted to no because it doesn't know I want to allocate. And so if I want to go ahead and auto-allocate it, I got to turn it on. The same case might have applied like if you have a master order and you create a standard order from master order and you want to and then allocate it. You just turn that on, and then as I save my order, it will allocate. It just allocated the inventory. I'll pull it back up, knows how it allocated. And it used our algorithms that we had in there too, everything. Okay? So, you know, a lot of businesses don't use that option, and it is a newer option. But so typically this is yes. This is the auto-allocate I just showed you, and this is prompt as lines are entered, so that and you enter each line, you can be prompted and do a distribution on the fly as you're entering a sales order. So I'll turn this back to yes. I just want to highlight a new option that you can do with Visual Integrator. If you didn't know, in Visual Integrator, here I'm in the back of the manual, and I'm in a later page in the appendix here, and I could choose to auto-allocate inventory. Oh, let's see, where is it? Auto-allocate inventory to sales orders. So in VI, those that use Visual Integrator, all you got to do is select the sales order number, and then that option I was just showing you, allocate order, set that to Y. And then when you import it, it will do an auto-allocation. Really cool if you're importing web orders, and then you think it's important to allocate that inventory and reserve it and right away, so not be dependent on printing the pick sheet. And that way you give priority to that inventory as you import your web orders. So the way the system works with this option is it will import it, and it sees this option. It will allocate the inventory according to the rules, but it will never save it permanently. It just it's just a little thing that we do to make this possible, so that you can auto-allocate by just using VI. You can use business object interfacing, of course, to do that, and then and so on. So yeah, so that's my discussion here on auto-allocation, directed picking, and I'm going to get into some of the other options here, sort of recap that and make sure we got some of this, and then want to make sure we talk about a few other features. So in looking at the options in the system here, we under inventory setup and then multi-bin options, these are our main options, and we talked about this one to pre-allocate. Some of the other options that we have here, if you want to change your quantity available in sales order entry for what's net quantity available, you could do that here. Net quantity available for what's allocated and the pick restrictions. Oh, and I didn't talk about that, and I got to get back to that. Back order allocations, that gives you the ability to reserve inventory on a sales order even though you invoiced it. If you did a partial shipment on the invoice, the inventory that hasn't been shipped can still be reserved for that sales order. The transfer sales order entry allocations, that's a special thing. so that when you're doing a transfer and transaction entry, so that we increase the available, so that you can, we increase the quantity available for what's allocated on a sales order so that you can move some of those allocations and transfer. I didn't talk about it, but on a quick transfer, since I'm in options, it blocked me, that when I'm in a sales order, when I have inventory allocated to the sales order, I can choose to move those allocations at the same time. So here, I didn't show this earlier when I did the quick transfer, but here I can move the allocations like this and move 6 pieces from one location to another. And let's say if I want to move this to shipping. So now I moved that to shipping. Note that my quantity on hand, the allocation for the sales order moved along with it, and we have a nice audit trail of what I just did too permanently in the system. So that's in essence what the handhelds do, and the pick and pack is moving those allocations too. I'll come back to options here real quick. So clear zero balance history, that's very nice to have in the system so that you can clear, so you don't keep a lot of zero balance inventory. So as you do period end processing, it will clear out those zero balances for you. Allow to exceed quantity available, that's clear. You know, if you want to check your quantity available as you're doing data entry, so you can do that. So let's say I'm doing a receipt of goods and you want to check the capacity of the location. If it's getting full, you have this option on. The auto-assigned primary bin location gives you the ability to, as your primary bin locations move, because one location clears out, and let's say you have another one that's been flat, another location that's been flat as a primary bin location, it will move the inventory along, it will move the primary bin location setup to along with that item. It's great in a quick pick area if you have like if you have bin locations next to a shipping dock and you want those, just because it's not in this one bin location, it's in the location next to it, you still want it as a primary bin location. This is the option to automatically keep track of the last received date as you move inventory. So, and what it's saying here is if I'm coming from a receiving staging location or production staging location, to use today's date. This is multi-bin barcode option. This is for transferring inventory from one location to another, and this is used by Scanco RF handheld. We talked about pick options. I just want to highlight these are the pick options. We beat this to death on printing allocations, printing wave pick sheets, and printing inventory. The invoice ship is a feature in our system to allocate on the fly. So let's say you print your available inventory on the pick sheet. You're not pre-allocating at all. And then you go invoicing, but everything always comes out of the primary bin location as you invoice. So you can set this option on, and so as you invoice, it will just take it out of your primary bin location. So you can see there's a number of different options here on how to do that, but that's one example on doing that. A lot of times, a lot of businesses that don't use this, and maybe they're using the RF handhelds or they're using our directed picking, it's nice to just turn this off so that the system's not automatically doing anything unless you really want it to in picking sheet. Anyway, nice to turn this off, or unless you know to do otherwise. We talked about the directed picking options, okay, and picking from the different location types in the system. And then receiving. So when I'm doing a receipt of goods, I can auto-assign a primary bin location or a warehouse staging location, or not doing anything at all. And then these are put-away options. We have put-away options that says when I receive goods in, maybe put it into the pick area. Remember I was telling you, in my example warehouse, I put goods in my overflow locations. But I could do it based on when it was last received. I can say disallow put to a location where the same item exists. That's a really nice feature, because if you don't have lot serial and you have goods that's been sitting in a location for a year, you don't want to put new inventory in there. And so this will help keep help aid your inventory with just using this option. And of course, there's an exception for a few places like primary bin locations, you know, because those are your quick pick locations anyway, and you don't want to stop that. Disallow lots in locations. You know, disallow lots in locations is really nice on the put away if you have a lot of inventory and you're using our directed picking. If you have, you don't want to tell a picker to pick a lot and it's in the back of the bin location or the rack or the pallet. If it's in the back, then and you're telling them to pick that lot, then it's going to really add more time to picking rather than optimizing the time. So if you see that, then disallowing a mix of lots in locations and let the system help allocate your inventory and keep track of where your goods are is the way to go. So anyway, that's the purpose of that particular option. Prefer lean the system to put this where the same item exists, and put goods in the primary bin location only if there's no stock. So that means if I have a primary bin location and I have no other inventory, I can go ahead and I want to go ahead and put it in the primary bin location. But other businesses say, no, go ahead and put it in the primary bin location. I want to keep that full up. I'm not going to wait for my back stock to come rotating forward. And here it's put inventory in the shipping dock if I have back orders. So what we do with this put away information and the receipt of goods options I was just showing you is in purchase order printing and receipt of goods. So there's, first of all, for put away information, we do that in a few different ways. Here in purchase order printing, so even before you receive the PO or receive your goods, you can print a put away report. Or after you receive your goods, you can print a put away report, and that's going to look at the put away location and the put away region. And then we also use that for replenishment here in the replenishment dashboard or in the primary bin location replenishment report. So coming back over here, first of all, to walk through a receipt of goods here, I want to just select this one PO. And what we do is we provide a template here in form code maintenance. So you would just, in my case, I selected that one template. And then here, in options, we had the choice whether or not to print available inventory. But you can see here it's putting some inventory in shipping. Let's see. It's putting some goods in shipping. I must be low in stock on this one item. It's telling me also to put some goods in my primary bin location. And then and the reason we're printing this plenty on hand is I have the option on. So it's also showing me where else I have that same item. And that's if you want to give the warehouse the ability to decide where to put the goods also. So here it's advising to put goods in the shipping dock to ship a back order and my primary bin location. Over on this next item, the AM/FM radio, it's advising to put goods in for a particular sales order. So in sales order entry for my AM/FM radio, we call this is another option here in as an override. And so here I'll just drill down into the order. And here's my AM/FM radio. And here I had an override bin location using a UDF field in the sales order header. And so what this tells the system, I don't care what your directed picking options are, take it out of this bin location for this particular order. So you can set this in customer maintenance if you want that on a regular basis. Let's say it's Walmart, and you want the Walmart orders to always come out of this one bin location, you could do that. Maybe it's near the floor or whatever. But anyway, for AVNet, I've got a bin location just for AVNet, and it's selected on here, and it's selected for this AM/FM radio. And so on my put away report that I print out for the purchase order, it's telling me to go ahead and put 10 pieces over there. It has some for back order, and then it's telling me to put some in the aisle, in aisle B, saying bin location B30U. So it did that for the following reason. Okay. So what I could do is first of all, direct the put away options start here, and I don't have any options overridden for the item. I just wanted to show that to you, and then I can select default regions and aisles for my inventory. Oh, and actually I have the wrong item up, don't I? I have AM/FM radio. I must have had that up on a different screen. So here I don't have anything set for the region or aisle for the goods, but I do for the product line. So under this product line, W, F, and A, I can go in product line maintenance, and I can see I have aisle B selected. So the way this works for directed put away, it says, okay, look at my company-wide options, then look at my options for a product line, and then look at my options for the item. If there's nothing in the item, it will use the product line and then on up to the company, okay? But so I set for this product line, I said try to get in aisle B, and it's looking at the last received date in aisle B for my inventory. And that's why it was able to provide that on my put away report. So once again, this was in purchase order printing. I can print the put away report looking at my receiving dock. Remember, I could do that for bill of materials and work order completions. I can select this. I can also select print the put away detail. This will tell me what logic went in the background to calculate where to put the goods away. Here this is all in my receiving dock and quality control. It's selected quality control because it's part of the region code, but anyway, it selected the quality bin location to look at, and it's saying, okay, this is the primary aisle designated for this product line or item, and so on, into that aisle, and so on. And these are the settings, the calculation settings that it used in the system in order to calculate what it did. Ship back orders, and so on. But anyway, this is a directed put away report. Another way to do replenishment and looking at this is by printing the dashboard. But actually, before I get to that, let's talk about a bin location setup for 1 second and how we have some of these options in here. So in a location, you can set up the capacity of a location. That could be the number of units in a location or the number of eaches or standard unit of measure, and using the volume field out of location, out of the item itself times the quantity. So the capacity, these are some put away options here. Don't mix items in the same bin location. You can put a hold on inventory as it goes in there automatically. These are pick restrictions. So if you recall earlier, you saw that inventory was on hold and was restricted for a certain customer. On my quality control location, I have that turned on so that all my inventory is already restricted immediately from anyone in sales, or great for returns and quality control. And you saw that in the test company that I was able to when I set up a new company, I initialized inventory, if you remember that discussion. And I wanted to show you if I were to import my bin locations, it's real simple. And in this case here, I could have just had my warehouse and bin location. In my case, I had the location type. And here are some of the sort codes that I was using, And so if you compare that to this diagram here, so you can see that the location, the sort code 2 was done for all my locations on the left-hand side down here. And I even say this in this example because it's not having to look left and right-hand side. So I might as well be in bin location order as I go down this aisle. But as I come down up this aisle, I'm looking left to right. I'm telling the picker to look left to right. So all I got to do is have the right numbering in place, left to right. And so see this aisle starts at A30. So starting at A30 over here, I start with 100, and then on the low B's, you can see that I have 105. So I have 100. Then on the right-hand side, I have 105. And then for B20L, which is on the right-hand side on this aisle, I have 115, which is still less than my next value here on the left-hand side for A. So I have 120. So I'm using the sort code, the numbering scheme to get it right on exactly what I want to do left to right in here and going through here. An example of that in Visual Integrator. If I were to select Visual Integrator here for my bin locations, it's actually quite simple. You just need the warehouse code and bin location. The system will default the primary bin location. Oh, it defaulted it down here. This is the minimum. If you just import it like that, it will default it to a P type. But in my example, my import, I was importing these other fields too. So to get going, it can be as simple as just bringing in those two fields. Discussion of this is in our manual, and I was talking about, I was here earlier for VI on the auto-allocate feature earlier. So to import bin location here, bin locations talk on, so on page 105 through 108 or so, we have the discussion here on importing. And you can see here, we give instructions here. Select this file, and the required fields are just this, and we default those pick locations if you want to have these other pick location types, and so on. Here's other discussion since we're here. Physical count, these are the required fields. So what you would do if on a new company, earlier I initialized all my inventory into those primary bin locations. All I needed to do to go live would be to do a freeze in physical count, and then import my physical count, and then update the variance register, and then I'm ready. I'm good. It will move the inventory out of the frozen location into the right bin location. Primary bin locations, if you want to import those. What we talk about here on quantity on hand is we talk about, this is the main inventory quantity on hand file, and it's very easy to use, and you can access it anywhere and do your own reporting. It's as easy, or maybe as easy as standard mass 90, but so here it's good to do a import your primary bin locations into this file. There's just 3 fields in here. I mean, 3 fields to worry about. There are other fields, but doing transfers, there's 2 ways to do transfers. You can import right into transaction entry, and here just a little guidance. There's even a sample on the right-hand side output of that. You can also import to this file, and you can do quick transfers from one location to another. This is really handy if you're going from one location to another repeatedly, or you're using business object interface. Anyway, it's quite easy to do, and it's very strong, works with our license plate, and you can select it in the instructions and sample over here. There's samples here for importing the sales order invoices and so on, and building inventory. So the manual provides a lot of assistance on importing information. So I'm sort of getting down to the 2-hour mark, and I don't want to keep you too long, so I'm going to open this up to questions. Just as recap here, we did talk a lot about allocations, directed picking, use of wave pick sheets, looking up inventory, transferring inventory. Remember the use of security events in order to give access to the inventory. And so even if I said that, the security events gives you access to this inventory that you lock down for certain purposes too. So you have the ability to restrict access, whether you want to show it on the screen or select it. So yeah, so why don't we slow down a little bit here, and we'll open this up for questions, and then I'll stick around if anyone wants to ask questions or talk about anything or talk about today's coffee. That's all good. But I really appreciate you coming today, and we welcome anything you want to talk about. Thank you very much.
All right, so I do have some questions. Laura, I am going to go ahead and unmute you. I know she had some questions about put away.
Okay.
Laura, you're unmuted.
Thank you. Hi, Ron. This is Laura from BCS.
Hi.
On your put away, for example, I have a purchase order. I'm going to receive 200 pieces. Do you show me that it prints actually the different bin locations with the quantity on hand on each bin location? What about if one of my bin locations has a restriction that I can put a maximum of quantity of 100? So right now it shows me that the quantity on hand is 90. My PO is receiving 100. It's going to alert me not to put only that 10, or do I need to add maximum quantity on that form?
Okay. So there's a great question. Thank you for asking. That's a wonderful question. So yeah, there's two folds of what we're doing on the put away report. By the way, was that the purchase order? That was a purchase order put away report, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, there's two things that we're doing on there. One, we're providing advisement to put goods away in certain bin locations, and then we're printing the available inventory. It's sort of, and so I like your question, and it might mean something that we might do something in the future, but let me tell you that the option to print available inventory is just because we turned this on. It's sort of in a dumb fashion saying, look, go ahead and just print the available inventory, but I am printing a put away report because I'm doing advisement to, the output on that put away report is trying to tell you where to put your goods away. Oh, and you know what? I did a receipt of goods on the, oh, you know what? I never did a receipt of goods on that. But here on the left-hand side, it is advising me to go ahead and put it into these certain bin locations, and there it's automatically evaluating the quantity on hand or quantity available in those locations, and so that you don't exceed the capacity. So if you have the capacity settings and you have the put away settings in place, it will not advise you to put goods to exceed quantity available. So, okay, so I think that's partially what you're looking for. I just wanted to highlight that this going here on the right-hand side is just a dumb, simple output of where my existing inventory is. In fact, you could say, you know what, that I don't even want that. And so in options here, I can choose to exclude that. And now, and that way you don't tempt, maybe, is a way of looking at it. Don't tempt the warehouse to put goods away. And so this looks a lot cleaner this way, and you're saying, look, just put goods here, 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 and here, and so on.
All right.
Does that help? Is that good?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. If I could say it too, in the manual, and of course, sometimes I get called in, or we get called in to say, look, we want to implement new processes. We've been running on phase one. We got our picking going. We're doing our pick sheets. We want to get to phase two. We want to start thinking about doing directed put away, and we want to set capacity locations and get into those options where, you know, maybe you would show up in today's class like Laura did today, or maybe you want to call us in and just sit down with you for a half hour. We do that complimentary part of our maintenance. We're all good with that. And I just want to show you here, take 1 minute, and this is back in the manual. So see here in the early section here of 9 through 16, we talk about general theory, and then like directed put away here on page 15. And it's sort of not a good jumping off point on what we're talking about. It says, okay, this is how we do it. This is the priority that we think about to put goods away. And then there's links to say, okay, to get a setup for this, you go here, set up for that, here, here, here. You know, and we try to make it as simple as possible given all the options that we're trying to provide. But thank you very much for the question.
One other question we had, Ron. Is there a limit on the number of regions? Can we have more than 5?
Infinite. Yeah, in my case, I just had probably, what was it, those 5 regions. I could have done the drill down from bin location maintenance, but you come in here. In fact, I got 13. So I could, this is infinite. I can keep on typing.
Perfect. And it looks like Gino has a question. Gino, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. You are ready whenever you are ready to go.
All right. So it looks like we're only using a small percent of the capability of the system. Based on your presentation, it looks like it's pretty robust as far as warehouse management is concerned and inventory management is concerned. And
yes, sir.
How do we go about getting maybe some kind of a consultant to come in to help us implement the full capabilities of the system?
Very good. And I'm sorry, what's the name of your business, sir?
Gordon Laboratory.
Ah, yes. You work with, I remember your reseller. Yes, right. Just go ahead and we'll make note of you, and I know your reseller, and we'll talk with you on the sidebar. And what we'll do is we'll consult with you. Actually, you know, I knew of you years ago, and you do have some good options. You are on an older version of our software, on 4.4, I last remember, and but you do have directed picking based on expire date using our settings for perishable goods and all that. And glad to help you. And so, Brandy, can you keep track of that for me?
Yep, I got
okay,
it.
thank you.
And we'll contact you, Gino, and we'll set something up for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
And I think that's all of the questions that I've been made privy to. Does anybody else want to raise their hand and have any other questions?
Test tomorrow. Get an A, get $100.
All right, it looks like it's all quiet.
All quiet. Well, we really appreciate you coming, and if you have questions, let us know. You want updates, let us know. Talk to your reseller, too. And we're doing an advanced class in 1 week. Brandy, is that September 3rd? September 3rd?
No, it's not the 3rd. I believe it is on the 4th.
September 4th, 10 a.m. You're welcome to come. We'll talk a little bit more about directed picking, but really the focus on that class is to talk about 3 of our add-ons: license plate, expiration date, vendor lot traceability, which the gentleman was just talking about, and the order fill wave batch picking. So, but thank you. You took 2 hours of your day. We respect that, and we really appreciate you coming, and we're glad to help you in any way.